Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Down the Wrestling Rabbit Hole. And do we have a show for you tonight? I am, of course, one half of the duo that brings you this chaos each and every week. I am Howard Meat Sweats Morgan, and joining me, as always, is my faithful tag team partner, the original chick magnet, Mozart Fontaine.
I'm good.
Mozart, how you doing
What's
tonight,
happening?
buddy? And I'm doing good. The lag is back a little bit, but that's fine. And joining us tonight is, semi-usually is Kathy Fitz. Kathy, how you doing, girl?
Good, guys. How are you?
Kathy, he's going to make
Doing
me
good,
give him
doing
the
good.
finger.
And finally, and not that he's there positionally, but just, you always save the best for last. We have with us, joining us, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tommy Wildfire Rich. Tommy, what's going on, man? How are you?
Yeah, not much, man. Enjoyed the beach a little bit today. It's kind of cloudy, but it's still warm. So went down to the beach for a minute. Hey, it's
Welcome.
good to be aboard with y'all, man.
Listen, a bad day at the beach, it beats a good day at work. Is that how that goes? So, but Tommy, what have you been up to lately? I mean, I don't want to really talk about, everybody knows everything you've done, in your career, but what are you doing to keep yourself busy nowadays?
Shoot, I still I do some fundraisers. Still get in there kicking a little bit every now and then. If it's for the right cause. I don't do no singles no more, but I get in a tag match every now and then, and do a lot of wrestling conventions. Stay busy enough, and then enjoy the beach. Of course, summertime's getting here, so during the wintertime, it's kind of quiet, so you enjoy that part. And then tourist season hits, and, I'm getting older, but I ain't dead yet, so I like to enjoy the party and everything, so it's all good.
I hear you. I've been through some shore towns. I've lived close to some shore towns, and like that summer, Labor Day to Memorial Day, man. I feel for the people that live down there all year round, because they can't get anywhere. When us tourists come down and invade your spot and take up your favorite seat at the restaurants and things like that. So I feel for you.
It gets busy. It does get, but I don't mind it. I enjoy it. It's good to see some different faces. You get around a lot slower though. I mean, it ain't just jumping out on the road and going like it is right now. Yeah, it'll be a lot slower. But slow's good for me anyway.
Slow's good for Howard, too. He doesn't move too fast at his age.
Man, I hear you. So, I mean, you were around, in the territory days, and, listen, I am built for comfort, brother, not for speed.
Me too.
But you've been around the territories and, those days. And to me, I think that's the best, portion, at least for Mike. I've been watching since I was about 7, 8 years old. Grew up in the territories. Loved Jim Crockett, the Mid-Atlantic, Florida Championship Wrestling. And you've gone into, you followed that through with, into where, Vince, of course, gobbles up most of, if not all of the wrestling promotions. And, you've had a run in ECW. What's it like kind of living through those phases of pro wrestling? And to me, I don't think the product's necessarily gotten better. I mean, the athletes have sure gotten stronger and faster, but I think the quality is down. But what's it like going through from the territory days to working, into those mainstream companies?
It's I call what I do old school, and they're definitely new school. It's a new age of wrestling. Some hate it, some love it. I'm kind of on the fence about it. They great athletes. I'm one of them ground and pound guys. I wouldn't be in the business probably if I had to do, they're like acrobats. They do all that high flying and stuff. That's not what I wrestled in. I'd like to make that big bucks they make, but at the same time, go back to the territories. You can't. You don't get no greater experience than that. Being in that car 6 days a week. Some people say you're crazy, and we probably all was back then. I mean, these guys fly everywhere today, and I mean, it's a different horse, you know. So, but for me, you know, I mean, I'd love to make the money they make today, but at the same time, I wouldn't take nothing for the experiences I had, and you know, just you know, I mean, I've been in the business a long time, so think about where the guys was at that I looked up to, like Jackie Fargo, or you know, some of the guys that made that pass, the Funks, you know, Dwarf Funk Senior. I mean, you know, I mean, it changed from then you went over on the mat, grabbed a headlock, you basically work holes, and then and when I started, it got a little progressively a little faster and a little crazier, a lot of blood. I mean, so I mean, you know, it changes, and like you said, the territories they were, you know, they were going out. I mean, you figure we 6 days a week. You had regular towns you went to every Monday night. I was in Augusta. Every Tuesday night in Macon, Georgia. Every Wednesday you'd be in Columbus, Georgia, and then on Thursday you'd have a town big enough to carry it. So you'd be in Athens one week and then Rome one week. So it just and you was there every week, and you had to do stuff to bring it people back because we didn't get paid if we didn't put ads in the seats. So even if you was hurt, you wrestled because you didn't get paid if you didn't wrestle. I mean, so it's I mean for the guys today, I think it's a lot better, and I think it should be, you know. And but there again, I wouldn't take nothing, you know, for what I did.
Right. It, and you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts on pro wrestling, and I think that's and you hit the nail on the head. You know, and I know it's a grind driving 6 days a week. I mean, I used to travel for work a lot, so I mean I drove a lot, but it was by myself. But I was my own best company, so I was all right with that. But I think that experience of driving in a car with other wrestlers, you know, bouncing ideas off each other, you know, sharing stories, experiences, even, you know, hey, you know, try this and gaining that knowledge, I think is what's lost, you know, today is, you know, with you say with everybody flying, I think everybody's moved too soon, too fast. And do you think that lack of, I guess, in-ring experience, you said you're working 6 days a week, you know, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday sometimes. These guys are now working a much more limited schedule. Does that hinder, one, their ability to perform better, and does it also, you know, amp up their chances of getting injured because they're not getting that work in, you know, every day?
I can tell you now, Howard. I'm probably sure that they ran a few red lights getting to shows instead of stopping. You know, when they were choking on something, or you know, you get that hard report time. You got to be there.
Well, you got listen. You can't. Yeah, we lost him. You can't be you know. I'm not a rule breaker, Mozart. I play by the rules. I'm not like you, man. I don't.
That's a life or.
I just can't.
I think you could break a rule
rules.
for a
I
life.
gotta have some kind of law
For a
and
life
order,
or death
man.
situation, I think you could break a rule or two. That's tremendous.
I'm not a doctor,
just play
though.
one
You
on.
know, I don't
play
know
one
that.
on the internet,
You know,
though,
I'm
don't
just
you?
trying to get to the hospital, man. That's all I'm trying to do.
Oh my God.
I just play one on TV, right? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Sorry about that, brother. We had a little glitch and a hiccup in our system.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if we heard the answer because we had that little glitch. The lack of these, you know, going town to town, does that hinder the, you know, the modern wrestler, you know, that's out there now that you know, not going, you know, on that little circuit? Does that, you know, slow their progress down at all, or do you think that they're able to overcome that?
Well, I think the business changed. I mean, you know, ours was. I come from ad lib. You know, I mean, you might have an opening spot, you might have a heat spot, and then you'd have the finish. Where today it's choreographed, and and that's another thing. If I had to remember verbatim everything I was supposed to do, I could, because I was always told you have a good time, but I'd be too scared, worried about remembering everything to have a good time with it. I think if you're having a good time, the people's having a good time. Uh, just like I said, I think it's a different era. I think it's a different time. I think, used to a pile driver, you went to the high, was out for 6 weeks. Now you get two pile drivers and the guy beats you up. So, so it's
Right.
changed.
No, it has definitely changed, and I've said it on this show before. I don't know that it's changed for the better, and it's no disrespect to the talent that's out there now, because they are super talented. They're very athletic, but I think what it's lost it for me as a fan of 40 some years is back, Tommy. When you guys were doing it, it was you, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, the Rock and Roll Express. The Midnight Express, all of those guys that, like you mentioned earlier, the Funks, everything that you guys did looked real, and it made sense to me. Even as a kid, like I understood why, you might have been mad at your opponent because he did this to you last week. And today it's just not making sense, and it's really not looking too real to me. And and I blame that on the territories dying and the internet, because we have access to so much information, almost at our fingertips. Is there any, I don't want to say hope like it's doom and gloom, but is there any road back to a territory type of wrestling? Do you think that the modern fans today would appreciate what I consider old school, because that's what I grew up on? Do you think a modern fan would, appreciate and understand old school wrestling if it were brought into today's time?
I don't think you can run actual territories where, like I said, I was in Augusta every Monday night, every Tuesday night, etc. I don't think you can actually do that. But there's people that still want to believe. I do some shows up in Kentucky every now and then, and them folks, they old school fans, from the young ones up to the top ones, they still believe, want to believe. And that's like back, when they said it was sports entertainment. Even if you wanted to think it was real, it wasn't no more, because it was sports entertainment. So, uh,
Right.
it's kind of like a magic trick. I love to go to a magic show, but once I learn how that guy's doing that trick, then it ain't as good to me. Used to, if we went to a bar and somebody said something about your business or something, if you got your butt whipped, then you was out. You got fired. You stood up, and that was just it. And once they said it was sports entertainment, it became a horse of a different color. And so I think
Right.
that has a lot to do with it. And it'd be, but we had, like I said, our programs. I wrestled Buzz Sawyer for 2 years. You know, uh,
Yeah.
most programs went anywhere from 8 to 18 weeks, maybe, if you was lucky.
Right.
So, but you'd have a Texas death match, you'd have a Tennessee street fight, you'd have different things to, build it up. And I think that today it's so rushed, they don't have time to paint a picture.
Right. I was going to ask you about that, because going over your career and all your hundreds and hundreds of matches you've had, I did wanted to bring up Buzz. What was it like working with him night after night? How was he as a worker? Was he, was you getting was you getting your ass kicked and you kicking his ass as real as it looked on what I was watching?
Oh, we definitely would beat each other up. But I seen him when he first come in. He was beating them job boys up. And I was said, "Can you work a pro with?" I said, "If he don't beat me up like that." But you had a fight every night. It was a fight, but that's the reason that we were so good together. I don't know. I don't know if I give as good as I got, but it was a fight every night. And it was always something different. With Buzz, what you expected, it'd be unexpected. Buzz, but
Right.
he was a heck of a worker. I mean, and
Right.
he, I mean, he we had, like I said, I mean, last battle of Atlanta, I never seen that film for, well, hell, they lost it. And I seen it, I thought, but it looked a little slow, but we went 30 minutes in that thing. I mean, shoot, that's pretty doggone good.
Yeah. Now,
Don't choke there, meat sweats. You good?
so, in your career, and I've heard, wrestlers talk about it when 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 they get into a program, with somebody and they're like, oh, I'm wrestling, so and so tonight. It's like, a night out, because I watched a documentary, a little bit, a YouTube documentary on Kurt Hennig, and everybody talked about Kurt Hennig. It was like, wrestling him is like taking a night off. Who in your career, who did you wrestle where it was like literally like taking a night off and it was just so easy to work with them?
God, I'm so blessed, man. I was the hot one on that Atlanta TV, and the best of the best come through there. I mean, shoot, Baron von Raschke. I mean, Ken Patera. I read, Ole Anderson, Gene Anderson, Ivan Koloff. I mean, Bill Eadie, the superstar. I mean, I got to wrestle the best of the best, and thank God, and it's like kind of like dancing. If you can, there's a leader and a follower, and I didn't mind following a bit because they taught, they showed me the right way, and King Kong Mosca. I mean, teamed up with uh, uh, Bruiser, the Bruiser out of Indianapolis, Dick Bruiser. I'm sorry, and I wrestled in Madison Square Garden one time, and I wrestled Johnny Rodz, and I just seen him at the convention at the big event, and we were reminiscing about that. He had my tongue hanging out. They had that 21-foot ring, and he caught one tackle. He'd be dropping down. I'd be doing all the running. He had me all. But just getting to see folks like that going to conventions, I mean, it just brings back the memories how close, instead of having animosity between each other, it's more of a brotherhood, I think, too.
Right.
But back to your question,
Excuse me.
Like Abdullah the Butcher, you wouldn't think that would be a night off, but it was a night off with Abby. Because he did what he was doing, did what he did, and I just wrestled my style, and my style pretty much worked with all of them because I was a little fella and they was all big boys. So it was easy for me to get shit beat out of me. You know what I'm saying? And then do the
Right.
fiery comebacks. I just very lucky, so blessed. I want to thank all them guys because, besides the wrestling fans, if it wasn't for the fans and guys like that I named off, Harley Race, another one, Bruiser Brody, man, I could go on all night with some that I've wrestled with or teamed up with. Stan Hansen, I mean, got to wrestle with the best of them. Just blessed doing that. And in the mix, got to win the NWA World Heavyweight title when it was, the NWA. I've accomplished a lot of things in this business.
Tommy, I was curious when you mentioned earlier about wrestling with.
Right. And sadly,
I was just going to say, I was curious. You'd mentioned earlier about just being told to have fun, but being in some of the positions you were in as the NWA World Champion, and I remember when you were super hot on Atlanta TV. Was it easy to go out and have fun, or did you put some pressure on yourself? Because I loved the matches. You're great babyface underdog in those days. God, I was a Tommy Rich fan as a young kid.
I can't say I went out and had fun every night, but because when the people's popping, that's when it's fun. So my fun might have been, their response was my fun. If you got them up off their butts and they were happy, and that's what I mean. When you make people happy, you're happy because you've done the job good.
But I was going to say, sadly, we we learned of the passing of Dennis Condrey over the past couple of days. Did your careers cross? Did you get a chance to work with Dennis, at all? And what kind of guy was Dennis Condrey? And I'm also a big Bobby Eaton fan, so if you got any Bobby Eaton stories, Mochuk would love to hear them.
I love Bobby, boy. We broke in about the same time. We started out. we'd go from Nashville to Tupelo, Mississippi, and we started out drinking an 8-pack of Pony Millers. And it's about 250 miles from Nashville. By the time that trip was over, we were drinking three 8-packs. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, with Bobby. I teamed up with Bobby and wrestled against him. And Bobby was one of the best. You talk about a night off. With Bobby, is a night off. You always look forward to working with Bobby. Never had a bad attitude. Bobby was always smiling, and if he seen you not smiling, he tried to make you smile. Bobby, old Tennessee boys. Tennessee boys pretty cool.
Why do I gotta let Kathy back in? I thought she was
here.
Go.
Hanging up on people
Kathy,
again.
you still with us? Now I got two Kathys in here. I'm not. Listen, Tom. There's a rumor out there that I may or may not have hung up on Sam Houston when we had him on the show. I didn't hang up on Sam Houston. He had a bad internet
That's
connection.
one side of the story.
So I did not. Sam, if you're listening, because I know you are, I did not hang up on you on purpose. Well, it's the only side that matters. It's the only side that matters. That's all.
We're technologically challenged here on this show.
But then, I know you got to go in a little bit, but if you could give any piece of advice to a young wrestler that's breaking, and a young Tommy Rich that wants to do this for a living, what would it be? Any words of wisdom would it be that you would try to instill on a young Tommy Rich or somebody breaking in?
Don't get into business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Unless you work for, unless you work for one of the big companies, AEW or WWE, unless you work for one of the big boys to get a break there, you just about have to have a job to support your hobby now. And it's hard, 'cause a lot of them, the big companies, they don't care if you know nothing about wrestling really, because they want you to do it their way. So they've got schools that they do it in, but getting the opportunity to get in there, and even the ones that they do take, 1 out of 5 might get a break. So it's tough. If it's in your heart and you love it, and that's something you want to do, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just telling you it's a rough road.
I know you are.
Oh my gosh, I am choking tonight. So, Tommy, where can people follow you on social media, and where you headed to next? Where can they catch you at, in the next couple of weeks or months?
Next 10th and 11th, I'm gonna be up in Pineville, Kentucky, doing a convention. Matter of fact, I'm wrestling one night, and then I'm being Las Vegas. I think it's for the WrestleCon, 15th, 16th. I'm leaving the 16th to come back on the 20th. So, but the 17th, I think it starts on the 17th and finishes up on the 19th or something. But I'm gonna be up there 3 days for that, and then going to enjoy one day. Fly out Sunday. I'm gonna just take the day. Me and my wife, she's going with me, so we plan on.
Do we got another freeze again, Howard?
Going around seeing a few things.
Right. Oh, excuse me, but Tommy, and I know you got to go. It's been great talking to you, brother. Appreciate it. It's great kind of going down memory lane a little bit with you.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and listen, you're welcome back anytime. We'll reach out again, because I'd love to have you back on the show. And talk some more wrestling, and picking your brain, on today's product versus, the old school way.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, man. I do
We'll
appreciate it.
definitely have to do it again. Yeah, I'd love to. Y'all
A-
pretty cool being, pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Hey, y'all have a good one,
Kathy,
man.
yep. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye bye.
We lost Mozart along the way somewhere, Kathy. Somehow we lost him, but whatever. It's still a show without him. But Kathy, we learned of the passing of Dennis Condrey. I don't know, it was 2 or 3 days ago, was it? Did you have any interaction with Dennis, in your travels?
I just met him through Jim Cornette and Bobby. At a few conventions.
Right. Okay.
Always a nice guy. Was very nice. Yeah, just like Bobby was. Bobby was very quiet. Would always hi, hon, how are you? It was,
Oh
it's
yeah.
sad. It's sad to see the guys that you've watched and admired pass away. It's sad.
And it's funny because watching them at the time that I did, of course, being a big Rock and Roll Express fan, watching these two guys, just try to beat up and as Gordon Soley would say, or Tony Schiavone or Crockett would say, they're trying to disfigure Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson and all of the heinous things that they did, in the ring with people, to people, and the underhanded things that they did to hear guys like Ricky Morton and Arn Anderson and all these guys talk about, especially Bobby Eaton, and of course now Dennis Condrey, just really excuse me, how nice they actually were. They were legitimately nice guys, in the locker room, outside the wrestling ring. And it's funny that they were able to make this kid of 12, 13 years old, somewhere around there, believe that they were two of the most evil men on the face of the planet. And, why are they always, protecting that little mealy mouth punk Jim Cornette? And I ate it up. And, I'll never, never forget that, and always have those those memories with me that, just what great guys they were. And yet it's sad. I was just telling a friend of mine, who we grew up watching wrestling together. I'm like, our childhood is passing on now. We're at that age now, where all of these guys that we idolized, for lack of better words, have passed on and are going to continue to pass on, and it's sad to watch my childhood.
You're not even going to make it to see that because you can't. You're choking to death.
Well, that's like on Saturday when I went to the convention. I saw Terry Taylor.
It's not your allergies, dude. I was frozen
Stop.
and you were choking half to death.
Allergies,
I could see
man.
it. Sorry, Kath. Go on, please.
I got to get back on my meds, man. That's all. It is, dude. Whatever.
But
he's not
I hadn't
sorry.
seen Terry in ages, and he just looked at me and went, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Hi," and then seeing Eugene and Big Al 911.
Yeah. Oh wow. I like Terry Taylor. From his Mid-South days. I always thought he was a great wrestler. I don't know him personally, so but I liked him as a performer, as a pro wrestler, but I just wish he would have. To me, of course, being a fan, I'm going to say, wish he would have gotten a little bit bigger push, a little bit better run. But I mean, still had a hell of a career. Can't take nothing away from him. But I love. I love watching Terry Taylor work again, kind of like in that Tommy Rich kind of, persona where he's, the ultimate underdog and, would beat guys that really he had no business beating.
I mean, for the love of God.
And if
I
losing
need,
Dennis
like, a week
Connery
off.
wasn't bad enough, Kathy, we lost Chuck Norris as well. I mean, my gosh, I didn't think that guy was ever.
I did. I'm off tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I should put in for bereavement at work. Like, I feel like, I just, I shared with the guys. There was a clip of, I think it was on the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson. This little kid, he obliterated Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris sold for him, and then Mozart said it probably better than any wrestler in the business today.
Yep.
And made this kid look good and feel good. So I sent it to my son. I'm like, yo, look, I said, Chuck's not so bad after all, is he? And my son replied, he's like, no, he's like, actually, that guy's is one of the pallbearers at his funeral and will actually be delivering the eulogy.
Really?
Yes. He got to speak at. Or is going to speak at Chuck Norris's funeral, which I thought was great, which means that, these guys have stayed in touch, all of these years later, 30 some years or so, have passed, and he's still stayed in touch. But man, to have those two guys go literally almost back to back.
It was the same day.
It's really a blow for, one for the world and two for pro wrestling. I mean, Chuck was involved in pro wrestling a little bit. He did that angle. I was it the same day?
I might have just sprung one on Howard. Cat.
Let me
look at that.
Let me type this up here. All right, March 20th was Dennis.
Oh, was it? Okay. I saw it the same day.
March 19th was Chuck. The next day
Close
was
enough
Dennis
for me.
Connery.
I still took a week off.
The 19th and the 20th. Yeah.
Well,
close. Yeah, too close.
May 16th, I think it is. Tommy Farrow is going to do his 80s wrestling convention.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, he's got some lineup. He's got Nikita Koloff. Tommy Rich is going to be there. Baron Ravashki. Ken Patera. Mil Mascaris. And he's got a good lineup coming in.
He always puts on a really good wrestling convention. I don't know how he gets these guys.
Yeah.
But he always does. It seems like he always does really well. He always gets a lot of big names. And when is that, Kathy? May what?
May 16th. May 16th.
May 16th? But Tommy always does really well with those conventions. And I just saw an interesting thing, Kathy. I was sharing with Mozart. I think it was 1987 when Barry Darsow jumps to the WWE and becomes one half of Demolition. He actually reached out to Nikita Koloff and said, "Listen, come up here. The grass is greener, the money's better, it's endless, blah blah." The whole nine, trying to sell the WWE to Nikita Koloff, and Koloff was like, "No, I'm not going." His loyalty, and he was going through some spiritual, rebirths, if you will. He just didn't want to go up there, and a lot of it, he attributed a lot of it to the locker room climate, in the mid 80s or so, and that's all I'll really say about that. And two, just wanting to stay closer to his wife, and his loyalty to the Crockett family and the NWA, and to me, and there were some comments on the video. I can't believe he did that, but the guy made a personal decision, and he does what's best, for himself and his family, not what everybody else wants to do. But I thought it was a testament to him and his character. He had a chance to probably make a ton more money, but would he have been remembered as Nikita Koloff? Because I told Mozart, as a young kid, Nikita scared the hell out of me. Like I didn't want to cross him in a very well lit, very wide alley, let alone a dark, narrow one.
Yeah, definitely.
and to understand, I've seen a podcast before that it was literally like, a phone call. I don't know if it was Road Warrior Animal or whoever called him down to Atlanta, said, you got to come down. If you can be a Russian, be a Russian. So he shaved his head and not study Russian, but, tried to pick up as much Russian as he could, literally on the drive down to Atlanta. And Crockett told him, look, you're hired, with the stipulation that if you trip or stumble, even on the ring ropes, you're done. This is it, because it will destroy, your persona. And for the guy to make that persona work for so many years, I mean, it is unheard of. But, just watching, as I said earlier, my whole childhood just kind of start to fade away it's really disheartening, I don't know what to say, it's passing. Mozart, what are your memories or recollections
let me
of
just
Dennis
say, first of all, your
Condry's
childhood
time
is not all past
one in the
away, 'cause I'm
business
still
and two,
here. I'm
part
still
of
your
the Midnight
hero.
Express?
I'll be available to you, phone call, text, internet. But I did see, I saw some footage, and
True.
That was my,
True.
obviously, I was a kid when that version of the Midnight Express, which is arguably the most famous one, with Dennis and Bobby. I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back at video, how good that they both are in the ring. And when I say good, I'm a stickler for the fundamentally sound stuff. So you can't tell me somebody's the greatest wrestler in the world when their feet are all over the place. That was not the case with guys back in those days. They were really fundamentally sound. And I just remember watching them, and they were the heel Rock and Roll Express, plain and simple. They were very, very, very good. And it was definitely instrumental in sparking my interest in the tag team scene, because that's what I love the most. I love doing tag the most. I thought it was so interesting to be able to see what you can do with a tag team match, and not even knowing it at the time. But I did want to touch on too, you were talking about Nikita and protecting his persona. That's not possible today. There's no way, shape, or form that is possible. It's okay that it's not. It's a much different business, like Tommy Rich was talking about. But you can't hide somebody's background now. You can't hide who they really are outside of the ring. We can't do it even in our personal lives. So we kind of lived in a magical time where we were, that 80s, maybe early 90s was kind of magical, because you didn't really have the internet. There was still you could really suspend your disbelief, and then nobody cared to go look. Like what means did we have to go look up somebody and see who they really are? So because we didn't have the means, we didn't care either. Now technology has given us the means to care. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But I love what you were saying with kind of nostalgic and, our childhood kind of, going away. I thought about that a little bit, especially you were joking about I almost wasn't joking, but taking bereavement for Chuck Norris. It's like when you think about the impact that some of these icons had, it kind of makes it sad how easy it is. And we talked about this a little bit offline, to be thrown into any type of recognition, a Hall of Fame, a greatest ever list, when you got a guy that lived like Chuck Norris, or somebody that was as fundamentally sound as Dennis Condrey, Bob Eaton, and made the impact that they made on wrestling, because you wouldn't have the megastars that you have today in Hollywood or wrestling without that.
Right. Yeah, and I heard, and I don't know how true it is or how much fiction is mixed in there, but I've heard some people commenting about Chuck Norris in little clips and videos, and part of his birth into stardom was he opened up a karate school, and he leaves the Air Force, goes back and opens up a karate school in California, and he's going to run the karate school just until, his application for whatever police department that he filed for takes him, and then his aspiration was to be a law enforcement cop or law enforcement officer.
I think it was Steve McQueen, wasn't it?
I can't remember what actor kind of walked in. It was pre Bruce Lee running into him. They're like, man, you gotta. It was Steve McQueen. Yes, I think you're right. And he's like, yo, you gotta come to Hollywood and meet some people, because I think you would do great. And then kind of the interactions with Bruce Lee, and then the rest, as they say, is history. But just a random encounter, with Steve McQueen. For those of you that are much younger, Steve McQueen was an A-list actor, kind of like Bruce Willis is, Keanu Reeves. He was he was the man. In this a lot through the 70s, 60s, 70s. Great actor. Could do it all. And kind of gave Chuck Norris a nod. And Chuck Norris kind of grew up broke, and I think in Oklahoma, was it? I think he grew up in Oklahoma. Really broke, barely trying to survive. He was real quiet. He goes into the Air Force and, discovers, Taekwondo, and literally kicked ass and never stopped. And I saw that, and it's funny because the article was, Chuck Norris's bodyguard. And I'm like, what would Chuck Norris need with a bodyguard? Like that, that just seemed ridiculous. But Chuck really liked all of the memes that they had about him, all them like sayings that they had. Like he really enjoyed them all. So the guy kind of embraced his fame, and really just, from what I understand, stayed humble.
I mean, I have
through it all, Mozart. I mean, you ever hear anybody talk a bad word about?
I just
Chuck?
looked it up the other day. I was interested in some of his stats because I didn't really know him. I'm not a stats guy. Like, as you can tell, I got the dates of some of the passings wrong. But what's interesting is, suffice to say, it's very easy. It's very accessible with our wealth of knowledge now and our ease of everything right at our fingertips, which is like what I was doing. His pedigree in legit competition. So you had I think it was a 6-time world karate champion, and I mean just multiple tournament wins, and founded his own style, much in the vein that Bruce Lee did. And when you hear the term mixed martial arts, that's thrown around a lot, right? So it was kind of like the inception, right, was UFC, and one style is going to be versus another style, and you're going to see which that was the original kind of like, we're going to mix the martial arts. Well, guys like Chuck Norris and Judo Gene LaBelle were doing that in their own hybrid style, and a lot of guys too. Bruce Lee was of that cloth. A lot of the old catch wrestlers were of that cloth. So I think he was pretty welcome in that circle because of his legitimacy. But every interview I've ever seen, every article I've ever read, much like some of the wrestlers that we idolize and talk about and cover on our show, they're very, very, very nice guys, and they're doing things behind the scene. I just saw something today where Sylvester Stallone's going to carry on some of the work that Chuck Norris was doing with trying to get some of his martial arts programs out to kids. So when you look at guys like, it brings us right up to the modern day, where you look at a guy like John Cena, and what they do behind the scene for the kids is way more important than what they're doing on the screen or in the ring. That's kind of a medium for these guys and girls to get out there and bring their message to the world, because even though their passion might be wrestling, or it might be karate or jiu-jitsu or wrestling, it's really just kind of a way for them to channel what they really want to do, and that's help their community, help their help the young kids. So I thought that was really cool that he was going to kind of step in. If that's true, I saw a video, but who knows now with AI if it's real. I'm so skeptical of anything now because AI kind of pisses me off. It's like, all right, well, was that real or not? I think that there's a time and a place for it, but that would be something where it's not. I hope that video was real. Like when you're sharing Bigfoot memes in the forest, there's a good that's what AI is for, right? You know, the animatronic Bigfoots, not for
And I saw
people doing things like that, like imitating real life people.
Right. And I saw, I can't remember what it was. I'm trying to look it up real quick, but he was the first like Westerner to win this Taekwondo type tournament. And I can't for the life of me find it now as I'm looking, because none of it has that kind of connotation next to it. But man, he's got all kinds of martial arts, karate, what I'll call what it is, fighting championships and accomplishments. And it's you talk about all that stuff that you do behind the scenes, and I do hope that it's right that Stallone kind of picks up that mantle and runs with it. But all of that, all the stuff they do in front of the camera is great. It's for our entertainment, my entertainment. But what kind of character you really are is all of the stuff that you do behind the scenes, like Chuck Norris did, like John Cena did with all those 600 and some Make-A-Wish, and it's probably even more than that by now. Right. He's granted the most ever, I believe, and because that's something you don't have to do. Listen, he doesn't have to go out and entertain me either, but you're signed, to the WWE or whatever company you are. So yes, you have to go out and perform for me, and and excuse me, and show me, a good time, more or less. But he doesn't have to go to all these children's hospitals and do all of the charity work that these guys do, and a lot of it gets overlooked. In us, and because we get so wrapped up in the celebrity end of it. And what was I just reading the other day? Chuck Norris did something. he paid. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. There was a kid in his karate school. Excuse me, that he was it got out that his mom was behind in her car payment or something. And it was only, I say 2 payments, but we're talking, the late 70s, 80s, so it could have been $200-300. Chuck Norris went and paid the car off, and outright just went, and paid it off with, don't say anything, I'm paying it off so that, she doesn't have to worry about that. Again, he didn't have to do it, but he did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Kathy, you would get the biggest gold star from me if you had a Chuck Norris story.
Unfortunately, I don't. But real fast before I go.
Yep.
May 23rd.
May 23rd.
Up it's Johnny Cashmere's wrestling school. They're doing a benefit show for my election campaign running for council in Lindenwold.
Okay.
It's a Saturday night. It's $20. They're donating half that to us. Don't know who's on the card. Haven't figured that out yet.
Okay.
But
May 23rd?
Yeah.
And where's that going to be exactly?
It's 22 King Street in Mount Holly.
22 King Street, Mount Holly. So anywhere in the Mount Holly area on May 23rd, want to get out to see Johnny Cashmere do his thing, who we've had on this show. He's been a great guest. And you'll be donating, helping a great cause. As Kathy is running. You're running for council, is that correct, Kathy?
Yes, myself and Alphonse Penna.
Who is it?
It's a local guy, young kid, 23.
Name
running.
sounded familiar, but if he's not young, then probably not.
But one quick story before I run, Howard. up at that big event, I got to see Slick and One Man Gang.
Oh,
One Man Gang's wife, Mary, was there. She is the sweetest, littlest, tiny thing you ever want to see. She's walking across the thing, and she sees me, and I'm like, Mrs. Gang, and she's hugging me. She goes, "This is the best Northerner girl I've ever met." I was like,
that's funny. Mrs. the Gang. That's great.
Mrs. Gang. And
Mrs.
she's this
Gang. There we
tiny
go.
little thing. And also, congratulations that they're putting Sid Vicious into the Hall of Fame.
Are they? I heard.
Yep.
I heard the rumor, but I wasn't sure if that was true or not.
Yep.
But that is good. I think it's it's deserved. I disagree a lot of times with some of those Hall of Fame inductions. But I'm not big on celebrities getting in. But I just Dennis Rodman. I don't know why. I mean, that makes no sense to me. But I think Sid deserves it. Had a great W.
You're torn up about that?
I can't.
Kathy, that hurts Fowler's feelings.
It hurts me in my heart, man. It hurts my heart, and
yeah. Well, it's not a real Hall of Fame though. Like that's what you have to remember. It's a complete, and that's probably going to hurt somebody's feelings, but it's not. It's definitely not a real Hall of Fame because there's no, and I say that because there's no rhyme or reason about how you get it. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not a real Hall of Fame because there's no criteria on how you get in. You can't pick, no. And this is not picking on hip hop because I do love some hip hop. You can't pick a hip hop artist from 10 years ago to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before you pick a vintage act that just absolutely influenced everybody in music. There's if there's no real criteria to it, then it's not a real Hall of Fame. But I mean, Kathy, Howard and I were talking about the Hall of Fame thing, and I get why they do certain things, but I'm kind of perplexed on Rodman too. I'm thinking, is it strategic? Like, are they in the area? Like, why him? Why now? Right? Because he was a great. I mean, his bread and butter obviously was basketball.
What he did was in WCW.
Right. And to your point, yeah. But the sad thing is now is they own everything. So it's kind of like they own that by default, which kind of stinks. But I have the Mandela effect go on a lot with the Hall of Fame because I'm going to be very honest with you. I really, honest to God, remember Demolition going in. And I could have swore Sid was already in. So when things like that happen to me, I'm like, am I in like an alternate timeline? Because they should have all been in by now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know who needs to go in? Hours of Pain and Haku.
They're not in.
Yeah.
I thought they were all in. Like,
no.
See, the fact that Haku is not in. Because look, and again, if there were any real criteria, he was in main events across one of their hottest eras. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no real criteria, or he'd already be there. You know?
Well,
that's what irritates me about it.
If there's ever a fight, who you want with you? I want Haku.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah. They tell you,
I've
you
never met him,
5 guys.
Man.
You pick 5 guys.
Pick one.
I just need one Haku. I don't need all 5, just one.
Yep.
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But Kathy, I know you got to jump. I know you got, more pressing things to do. But, again, thank you for hanging out. It's been great.
Thank you, Kathy.
It
was great.
Hopefully we can catch you next week as well. You're always welcome back. Anytime we're on, Kathy, you're always welcome.
Well, thank you guys. I'll catch you down the road.
Kathy, you got to put your bow tie on and turn your camera on.
No. No.
That's fun.
Thank you so much. It's always great to be with you.
But I love having Kathy.
Howard, you got me now.
I love her
I
stories.
froze myself up trying to look for. Oh yeah, I froze myself up trying to look for Chuck Norris stats. I had to come back into the room.
I was trying to look, but then I got distracted. I got like ADD. If I see something shiny, I'm like looking all over the place. So I stopped. I stopped.
Awesome.
So
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
I try to do all my research as best I can before.
What do you think, though? Yeah, me too. And you know what I realized? It was too small on my phone. I was trying to make it bigger to read it.
But what do I think of what?
What do you think, though, seriously? Because I know I was joking with you about the Rodman thing, but why can you tie it to anything? Are they in an area where they would it's just a confusing grab for me. Like, why him, why now, right? Like, I understand that. So let's take away the fact that it's weird in general, that it like makes no sense. But typically when you look at a celebrity going in, they can tie it to like the city, something they did big in the area that they were in, their hometown. Like, what is it? His hometown? Like, why would they do that, in your opinion?
Actually, I'm looking that up right now because I don't know. It makes zero sense to me. I'm not finding anything. I mean, the first thing that pops up, and it's funny because you'll get a kick out of this. This is Dennis Rodman is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, class of 2026, due to his significant contributions to pro wrestling.
But it wasn't, though. It was a significant contribution to a major angle, which makes, look, again, what's the criteria? Like, if there was a defined criteria, did he draw a certain amount at the gate, like pay-per-views, because pay-per-views were a thing at the time? I don't know that you can call that a significant contribution because, again, that whole concept of the NWO got so incredibly watered down that it made no sense by the end of it. Like, they just bastardized it to death, You didn't need everybody. I think everybody on the roster honestly got a run into be. I think you were, as a matter of fact. Weren't you the you were the fake 6, weren't you?
I was one of the many Stings that came out.
You were a
Sting.
Sting.
Yeah,
whatever.
There you go. I was one of the many faces of Sting. So that alone, my contribution, I should be getting a WWE Hall of Fame call any minute. Oh wait, that's Triple H now. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's my point though. Like, if they're gonna, it's just now like. I hate to say it because, again, like, you've got some really, really guys going in deserving. Like, I do think it's really cool that AJ's going in. I do. I think that it's the right time. It's the right thing. Not everybody needs to go in as soon as they retire, but that worked out, and I think that's probably the right thing to do. Demolition. I mean, come on. I honest to God remember them going in, so that was my alternate universe. So. But why, again, why wouldn't you at this point, since it really is becoming a tongue-in-cheek thing, I would run a tremendous story around Danhausen getting in. I really would. I would meet every Demandhausen there is and somehow find a way for him to curse himself right out of it. If they're going to treat it like a joke, which honestly, if they're putting Rodman in, no offense to his basketball fans, that's not an acceptable admission in a legitimate Hall of Fame under any circumstance. Again, define me the criteria. Sid's going into a legacy wing, but he had a world title run in WWF. Yeah. He had a world title run in World Championship Wrestling. He was a prominent big guy with an excellent look for many, many years. Okay, you can make an argument for his contribution. There is a contribution. You can't just pop up on TV as a celebrity from another sport, hardly do anything, to my knowledge, hardly get trained, and be in the main wing, if you will. See, it's so confusing. It's just like the lineage of the titles, like what's what. It's whatever they want it to be that day. Let's just face the facts. But the funny thing with me is when you've got somebody who's caught on and who is red hot as Danhausen is, why not run something really fun around that whole thing? You don't have to legitimize it. You can just make it. Maybe he goes into into his own wing, and it's a whole silly thing. I don't know. I just see an opportunity around that. If you're already you've already made it funny. You've already made it kind of a joke. You know what I mean, with the celebrity wings and this wing and that wing, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just going off a little. Maybe I got a little bit of too much Howard Morgan meat sweats in me today because I'm going off on it a little bit. But
it just and I like what you're thinking. I like that, and if you do something silly around it, even right up to and including the ceremony where you bring out all of your retirees or whatever, and you can do it around probably either AJ Styles or even maybe a Dennis Rodman kind of guy, where Danhausen, he's either peeking out from behind the curtain or they go to read Dennis Rodman's name and it says Danhausen inside, like something along those lines where it would be kind of funny, kind of tongue in cheek. And of course now they're taking out, they're trying to escort Danhausen out, and he's laying a curse on everybody, and the lights go out, and all of a sudden he's gone. Something like kind of, I hate to draw the analogy, but kind of like the Keystone Cops kind of. Oh, we thought we had him, and where did he go?
No, but
where did he go?
But that's what the character is. I mean, it's great, and I can't wait to see in ring, because again, it doesn't have to be a technically brilliant matchup. It doesn't have to be a serious, collar and elbow tie up, to an arm drag or whatever. It can just be a fun, psychologically based, competition. Because again, if you make the argument like, oh, well, nobody's going to believe that, it's like, yeah, but you've already told them not to believe anything. That's literally what WWE has done. Sadly, yes, literally. And I watch, I got invested in watching again, right? I've been watching for, almost a year again now, trying to follow the development of the different, personas and where they're going with them. And while I like a lot of it, I still feel for the guys, because I feel like their hands are cuffed sometimes. Like, I'll give you a great example. Am I supposed to not like Roman Reigns after he told me, and I'm not stealing this from Kevin Nash, by the way, because I saw a headline today, but I was thinking it myself. And by the way, Kevin's right. But not that it matters, Kevin, that you know what Mozart Fontaine thinks, but you're right, my friend.
Right.
Am I supposed to hate Roman Reigns after he gave a friggin' awesome speech to his younger cousins, that he wants to stay home and be a more of a full-time dad? It's not about being a part-time wrestler, however he put it, but it was like, I want to be a full-time dad, father, and a full-time husband. But then he's being clearly positioned in the ring to be the guy you're supposed to boo.
Right.
That's hard for me. That's not, I know no fans like to use this term tweening, which by the way was never really a real term. Everybody just grabbed it. That was the, what's my word, Howard? That was the trendy word of the day that happened.
Yes, trendy.
When Austin was in transition, that became something that kind of got made up. That's not in the wrestling glossary, by the way, fans. But I don't see him as doing that. I see him as, it's really hard to position yourself. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine what the creative would be like when you're discussing your direction. Like, you know, hey, we want you to say this, but when you get to the ring, you're gonna be, the guy that everybody hates. Like, God, as a performer, that's very, very polarizing and confusing to me.
Yeah, there are no more. There are no more like clear lines drawn in the sand, and I'm not against blurring.
Right.
Babyface heel. Sometimes
it can be fun. Well, when you're building to the payoff, but once we get to the payoff, my fear is we'll get to WrestleMania and it's going to be more of the same through the whole match, and then they're going to pull this BS of, oh well, we let the fans decide. That's a little too late at that point. You've invested millions of dollars in advertising and marketing. This isn't the day of Tommy Rich where you hit a town and maybe one night they're going to like buzz a little bit more than him and they're just going to let it happen because it doesn't hurt anything. It's not going to screw up their TV. It's not screwing up their main storyline around them. You had a little more leeway when you didn't have so many eyes on you in terms of the mass media. Now you've told the world, this is what we want. Oh, but by the way, we're going to let you decide when we get to and what you're going to get, and it happens every time, is a flat match. Not the performance. You're going to get a flat match if they don't clearly define, because the crowd's not going to know what to do. And they might not care. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to be confused.
When you say we, it's going to be me too, and every other pro wrestler that's working the indie scene, or even the guys sitting in the back, if they care to watch, they're probably going to be like, "Huh, wonder who is the bad guy." You know what I mean? Who is the good guy? There?
Right. Yeah,
could I was just watching one match.
Yeah. Now I was watching.
But they'll do it. But that's the normal though, with everybody.
Right.
But go ahead. Sorry.
I was watching, I forget what match I was watching. It was, my gosh, I'm trying to remember who it was now. It might have been Rock and Roll Express Midnight Express match. It was near the end. It was only like a 4-minute video. Okay. And there was, it was actually Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton incarnation of it. And Stan Lane had dropped,
too, by the way.
Yes, Stan Lane had dropped a foreign object. Right near the apron, and Ricky Morton picks it up, and he hits Bobby Eaton with it, and the crowd went bananas because earlier in the match, it must have been used on them, but they went bananas because there was a clear line drawn,
retribution,
who the bad guy was, right? Who the good guy. This was in retaliation of something you did to me earlier, and I don't get that feeling, with this build up, to their title match. I don't know. Do I want to cheer Roman? Yeah, maybe. Do I want to cheer Punk? Maybe. Like I'm kind of really stuck in the middle. Like I don't know.
The thing that made me kind of, I would kind of say if somebody put me under the gun and said, who's who? I would say Punk is the face, right? But there are some things that he did too. Like if you're a face, would you talk about the legendary Sika, knowing his legit background with the Samoans and even what you could say is a storyline background? That could maybe put some questions. Well, if it's done correctly, to draw some intrigue around the initial meeting, but now they're in the ring every week, and there's this joust back and forth of 1 minute somebody says something that's a little over the edge, a little out of line for what you would think is going to be their persona. I think that it's hard for the crowd to determine who's who, even though you think you might know. I don't know that that's a game that I would play as a booker. I think I'd want the sure bet of, okay, I've now set one or the other up as the face or the heel, like they did with Orton and Cody. Now, could they can do anything they want, right? Because as long as the booking is done in a crafty, logical manner. But
right.
They're teasing a little bit. Is Randy going to come back and be like, oh, man, I'm really sorry? Well, it doesn't look like it after the last TV they did with Randy on the end of last week. But it might leave just enough question. Is Randy really the heel? But he is. I mean, clearly,
yes.
Draw blood on because blood is for sympathy, right? Blood on your face is for sympathy, And I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought it would have been fine if it was but thinking back on it now, it would have been a little bit of a flat match. And again, not in terms of performance, but in terms of how you've set them up and their personas and who's who in the matchup. I get a different feel from each match. I'd still like to see each heavyweight title be a little bit different, though. And then when you go to the secondary titles, they're much different. You got a much different flavor in what Carmelo's going to do with the United States belt versus what Penta's going to do with the Intercontinental belt. Intercontinental might end up being a multi-man match, would be a lot of fun, where it looks like it's going to come down to Ilya and Carmelo, which, I mean, God, how many times have they had tremendous matches? They'll turn it up again.
Right.
Differentiating the card is I think, in the modern era, I think that might be the key. I think that might be something that gives it a fresh flavor. Like we've been, I mean, God, the entire world's talking about Danhausen. We're talking about him,
Right.
Because it's different. When you differentiate, segment the card into what you clearly define, where you want your performers at, what they're doing, and then tell the logical story to get them there. What are your take on the differences? Do you think the heavyweight belt situation is different enough now, or do you still need to work on that?
No. I think you're going to see the same type of match night one and night two. Maybe a little bit. The finishes will be different, I hope. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to see the same kind of match play out. I'm excited, I'm actually excited more for the mid card area. And that's no insult or slight to anybody. It's just what it's called. I mean, you have the main event and you have everything underneath, Jim Cornette used to call it the underneath. So that's what I'm going to say. Everything underneath the main event is what I want to see. I want to see who starts the show, how hot is the show going to start? And kind of where these matches progress along the way. And it's funny you mentioned, lines being drawn in the sand. Are we supposed to, and I'm going to bring them up again because I love you so much and I didn't think I would. Are we supposed to cheer for Danhausen? Is that where they're pushing him, or, what are we supposed to do with him? And I love his work. And getting and real quick, you talked about his match, getting in the ring, and he doesn't have to do much. I feel like if he gets into a match with whoever it is, and he takes that first punch to the face, he's like, oh, that hurt. Like this is real. But then along the course of the match, if he does, go, for the headlock, the arm bar, to a takeover, it's like, oh. Maybe this kid can wrestle too. I know he's goofy, but you don't just glimpses of his ability. You can't reveal everything that he's got, but I think you do it slowly and be like, oh, maybe this.
Smart.
But again, when he falls down, he's like, oh man, I didn't think that was going to hurt. But you got to be able to hear him because he's verbal and he's physical. So you got to be able to hear him. Yeah. He's like, oh man, my tailbone, like, man, why'd you drop me like that? Like, that ain't fair, but then every once in a while, he hits a toe hold or something like that you're like, oh, well, when is this wrestler going to come out? And I think they could milk that for probably a better part of a year of him just showing glimpses of his ability. By the way, Chips, if you're listening, I'll sign me, Steve, and Mozart up right now. And we'll be the three-headed monster.
Just a small cut of the WrestleMania gate. Yeah, that's we're not asking for merchandise or anything. Yeah,
right. I got enough. I've had enough phone fingers. I've got enough.
We'll take
wrestling T-shirts. I don't need any of that.
10% of the gate, and we'll probably never have to work again. Yeah. But no, I think you're right. I think we are supposed to cheer him. I think that I think that the initial debut, which I didn't see, I saw it after it happened. The fans were kind of like, "What is this?" And because again, WWE fans, I think, by and large, are just WWE fans. I don't think they watch AEW. By and large, they're the casual wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I don't know that many people knew who he was. So could they have pivoted and made him a heel in some way? They could have. They didn't need to, though, because he caught on very quickly, and they probably expected him to catch on that night immediately. I don't know for sure, but they probably did. And I think that once he started to catch on, we're supposed to cheer him. I think that people want to cheer him. And that's where you would listen to the fans, right? So if he really was getting a really poor reception every time they put him on the screen or every time he hit the ring live, there'd probably be some discussions about pivoting him into a different role, that's age old. That's always happened, and it's a smart thing to do. And you've seen what happened when they go against the grain. Unfortunately, I don't think that did John Cena any favors for years, where people might have wanted to see him as a bad guy. And then by the time they did it, it was just too late. Nobody cared,
Yeah.
They've pushed Roman Reigns in directions they wanted him to go to a few times. But there's the other side of that, too, is the fickle wrestling fan. Sometimes you position a star, and when you tell them that's what you're doing, which is the mistake. You didn't have a booker coming out saying, by the way, here's Wildfire Tommy Rich, and he's going to be the young, hot babyface, and you have to cheer for him. Because guess what? They wouldn't have. So that's a mistake when you tell everybody exactly the way that you tell them, our audience, what to do is by letting them see what you're presenting. Like when you turn on the movie, you know right away that whatever action star is going to be the good guy. He's positioned to be the hero. So okay, that's supposed to be the hero. I dig it, Right. So I think by and large that's the mistake. But they didn't make that mistake to my knowledge with Danhausen. They just debuted him. They let the fans kind of react. I'm glad because, again, my gut says that they wanted him to be a babyface. They didn't pivot off of that first reaction and immediately start doing something knee-jerk and, follow it, because I think there's room for him at some point to be a kind of a dastardly little heel, but he's not now. He's different. And again, I think that's what the wrestling, that's what the mainstream wrestling needs. I think that happens on an independent level, and even, on other TV shows, TNA, I think MLW has some clear lines drawn. I think AEW at times has some clearer lines drawn. Although by and large, that's a nonsensical product too, because you can't really follow anything from beginning to end. It's drawn out too far, in my opinion, for some of those storylines. And then they're doing things within the matches that are just for the sake of doing them, not. But when we talk about watching a guy like Danhausen and he's on the same card as Brock Lesnar. I mean, that's diversity, who's on the same card as Penta, who's on the same card as, the Americanos, who's on the same card as, the women, Rhea, Stephanie. There's a lot of diversity in, and when I say diversity, I'm not talking about like ethnic diversity. I'm talking about personality and persona diversity.
Yeah.
As I said months ago, I think I said it on the show, I feel like they need to kind of revamp that whole main event scene. It happened. Unfortunately, it happened out of necessity because the injuries happened. So, in other words, everybody was really stale, really flat, almost doing the same exact persona with just different twists. Now I've seen nuances of who Drew McIntyre is. Now I got a vicious Randy Orton again. Now I've got a CM Punk who's on fire on the microphone and might really pull out one of the better performances he's had in a long time. Reigns is coming back looking, they're all looking like they're invested in what they're doing with clear differences. That wasn't happening 6-8 months ago.
No, it wasn't. No, and I've said it on the show before. I think with the initial, and I think this is why WWE had to kind of pause, and I'm glad they did with Danhausen's, debut, is because we as fans, and I'll include myself in it, although I didn't get wrapped up in it, because like you said, they're going to do whatever they want, whenever they want. They could change their mind 100 times, right up to and including, last minute on who it was. But we as fans were hoping for, Jericho, for Danielson, for, Moxley, for and no disrespect to Danhausen, a bigger star for the return. I think we were hoping for a familiar face to come out of that box. And then when we didn't, automatically, because that's what happened. A majority of those people that was in Chicago, right? In Chicago, didn't recognize him right away. Had they, it would have gone differently. But they're like, "What? Who is this? Even the guy that debuted?" It took us a minute. Like, okay, when's Moxley coming out? When's Jericho? Oh wait, he's not coming out. It's this guy.
Yeah.
Never mind. But I'm glad they didn't pivot from it. I'm glad they didn't have that knee jerk. All right, we got to pull the plug. We got to because it's played out. Trips is probably one of the best things you've done in probably the last 10 years. Is whatever you're doing with Danhausen, it's been great. And I know Trips is listening because he'll probably call me later on and tell me how wrong I am. But I'm telling you, Trips, if you told your
what's
audience
the deal?
honestly,
10%, right?
10%. It's all for us. It's not a lot. It's just 10%. Don't think of it as asking for 10%.
Of one,
right, of one gate. You are keeping 90% of it. We only want 10. Just teeny. You keep 90%.
If we did the numbers on that, if we did the numbers on that, what do you think? What do you think 10% would be? Would it be bigger than a main event payoff on that show? Are we worth it? Are we bringing them that kind of revenue?
I think we are. I think we are. I had this conversation earlier that Mozart, and I don't know if you noticed or not because I haven't really revealed it, but I'm going to reveal it tonight on this show that we are single-handedly responsible for the influx and the rise of attendance at the ECWA shows that they've been putting on, because since we've been promoting them, the house has been packed.
Oh, come on.
And you can't disprove that.
I wouldn't go that far.
Listen,
you're going to be on fight with Cheyenne
Since
Ortiz.
We've been promoting it.
I don't know about that.
First of all, I've met Cheyenne in person. I've seen how hard he trains, and I've seen him wrestle. I'm not scared of Cheyenne. All right? Cheyenne wants to do something, all he got to do is call in. He knows where I'm at.
I wasn't either until I wasn't scared of him either until he shot on me with a leg sweep. Then I got a little worried, had to get out of the ring.
But we are single-handedly responsible for the spike in attendance in the ECWA shows. That's
you know what?
And you can't disprove
here's
it.
What I can claim. Well, you can't disprove it, but you can't really prove it either. Okay. That's my logic.
Sure,
that's my logic when I tell you.
Has attendance been up since we've been promoting it? Yes, it has. Yes. Ergo, see that? Ergo, see that?
Ergo.
See how much
Did you use the word ergo? Now? Oh my
ergo.
God!
I don't even know what it means, but it sounded cool.
We've really gone down a rabbit hole tonight. We went from the legendary NWA World Champion to Howard claiming responsibility for a gate.
Oh, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Cheyenne. Prove me wrong.
Hey, listen, but you know what? Before we, end up, taking this thing home and wrapping it up or filling in the rabbit hole in a little bit, I find it very, very interesting, though, that what Tommy was saying about just have fun, because I started to wonder when he was talking if a lot of the guys and some of the pressure they've been under, and unfortunately I don't watch it, and I really will not watch Unreal. I think it's ridiculous,
Nope.
and I don't want to give it a single bit of rating. And I wish other people would kind of really send that message too. I've seen, unfortunately, and read some of the clips of the wrestlers getting upset when they've heard comments being made. That should never be for the talent to hear. The office and the talent
Right.
on that level. That should be a one-on-one conversation, just like at your day job or my day job. If there's a performance issue with me, I don't need that being told to my team. I don't need that being told to, other managers that don't pertain to my area. I need that to be between my one-on-one and, me and my direct report, or not my direct report, but my direct supervisor. That's a mistake, clearly, from anybody who's worked in the corporate world at all. But when he was talking about having fun, I couldn't help but wonder, are some of these ladies and gentlemen who are there just really giving it their all? It's their life. It's their job. And most of them are paid pretty well. As Tommy said, he'd like to be making some of that money today. I wish all the old timers, I wish all the guys who paved the way for us had made that kind of money, because they certainly deserve it. But those deals weren't in place back in the day. I understand they didn't have the sponsorships. They certainly didn't have network
Right.
deals,
Right.
Hell, at times they were probably paying networks to be on there, in the early days
Yeah.
of TV. But I can't help but wonder if sometimes they're not having as much fun as they really should be having. Sometimes they are. I just, when stuff like that happens, I'm like, see, that's, you just took somebody's heart and soul and ripped it out because you wanted a rating on a show that won't matter in a year,
Right.
That'll be laughed at when it comes down to the history of what pro wrestling is and even sports entertainment, whatever. I mean, I start to even wonder, is there really even a difference? And yes, I would have said yes very quickly, even up until very recently. But I'm like, are we really just trying to rebrand the wheel because the wheel is not spinning anymore? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And you had asked I thought I was just kind of sitting back and almost taking in the interview as like a listener. You'd asked a really good question about something to the effect of, can we get back to that? And I think he was right. I was very interested in his answer that we can't get back to a territory system.
Right.
But I think that if I were to expound on that, we might be able to get back to a little bit of the feel of the specific
And that's kind of where I was
matches.
going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want that feel of the territory. And I've said it on this show before, and I said it to Cheyenne after the last show, that's the feel I get when I go to an ECWA show. I get that territory feel. Everything makes sense to me. Everything looks real to me. And I think these guys are having a lot of fun doing what they're doing. They're relaxed. They're not. Listen, I mean, they still are putting on a fantastic product. Second to none in my opinion. But they're having a lot of fun, which kind of relaxes you a little bit. It allows you to do a little bit more. You're not all tensed up, and I do really enjoy it. But I want that territory feel, and that's kind of what that. And I've never been to one. I would have loved to have gone to one of the studio shows on the 605 on TBS. But that's the kind of feeling that I get at an ECWA show. I get that kind of studio kind of vibe to it. It's got that old school feel to it. It's got the old school, mentality. There's two separate entrances, one for the baby faces, one for the heels. I like that because that's kind of how it used to be. Different locker rooms. These guys are separated, and it just has that old school, 1985, 86, Mid-Atlantic feel to it.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm, wrong or just blowing smoke, check them out in May. And I wish I knew the date. I think it's May 3rd. 2nd.
I think it's the
I was off a
second.
day. May 2nd, Pretzelmania.
I'm like, I think it's the second. Yeah, I'm going to be there. It better be the second. I'll be there on the second.
But you know, I
Ryan's pulling his hair out like, oh my God, he doesn't know the date.
He doesn't even know when he's going to be there. He doesn't even know. But you know,
Ryan,
I'll be there front row. You know, and you know, I'll have my ticket. Hold on, let's see where we at. April.
Well, the dual
May
entrances.
2nd,
The dual entrances are interesting because a lot of independent groups coming out of that era where Jim had ECWA red hot in the late 90s, and Jim Kettner had it red hot in the late 90s and early 2000s. And again, that's where, if I can reiterate to fans, a lot of the style that you see on TV was kind of born out of those Super 8 tournaments, which was our version of a New Japan Super Junior tournament. So a lot of the light heavyweight, even the mat-based style, some badass mat wrestlers came out of, the Super 8. I mean, Charlie Haas. I mean, you had Bobby Roode was in there, Christopher Daniels himself. If anybody's not familiar with Christopher Daniels, he wasn't just a high flyer. He had some tremendous mat wrestling academia behind him. But anyway, the dual entranceways is very visual. I always look at it like this: is can a 8, 9, 10-year-old right away understand who's who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? Well, once they determine after a match or two who's coming out of what curtain, that's a very easy way for them to continue through the rest of the card. And then if they're a return customer, which ECWA is notorious for repeated fans over years, decades-long periods, they know what side the good guy's coming out of. They know what side the bad guy's coming out of. And then they'll be telling their little friends that they bring, or even the adults can say, if you brought somebody, how do you say, well, over here is going to be the good guy. Over there is going to be the bad guy. Because it's standard. They keep it that way. They don't change it up and, make it fun. And, let me guess who's coming out which curtain, The original illusion of it was that there were two, and sometimes there are, depending on what building, but that they were two separate, completely not even connected locker rooms,
Right.
But that was the thought on the original concept for the two entranceways, to my understanding, was to clearly define who's who, and you give them the fans that even before they ever hit the ring. And something else I remember Jim telling me is, as he often does, drop the knowledge, that he would always have the ring announcer subtly say the very popular, Chase Del Monte, the very popular, I don't think it was needed for the heels. Like, they wouldn't say, like, the despicable Mr. Ooh La La. You just said the very popular, to give them that little nod that this is the guy that you really want to pay attention to. Now, that's a way to tell them exactly who's who without saying, hey, come on in the back. I'm going to run down the lineup sheet with you. I'm going to tell you exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it for the next year, because then why would they buy a ticket? But that's that little bit of nudge that you can give them. And I think when WWE does that well, they give you that little nudge of who you should be cheering for versus that's why I was mentioning earlier where it got a little confusing with one guy saying, each guy saying something a little bit heelish, and then somebody saying something a little bit babyface,
Right. Yeah. But, I think we've put a nice little bow on this. I think we filled it back in.
Bow tie.
It was a great show. Love talking to Tommy Rich. A bow tie, yes. We put a bow tie on this.
Always. I should start wearing it,
I got to find mine and wear it to the next show, because I actually do have a bow tie, so I will have to.
I got an extra one. Yeah, I got one for you and for King Reginald.
Right. So, but Mozart, thank you for hanging out. Thank you, Tommy Rich, for
pleasure,
joining us.
Man.
Kathy, it's been great. Don't forget to check all the other podcasts we have, on this network. You heard it here worst. And I still call it a Lariat, and all of the other shows on the Lariat podcasting network. Check us out on YouTube. The show, it's actually Tuesday night now, but it'll be dropping on Friday. Like and subscribe, leave us a comment, and all that stuff that you
Please.
do, to YouTube videos. Mozart, again, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Everybody
Thank
else,
you.
have a great night, and we will see you next